Why did the biggest Israeli protest since October the 7th happen yesterday? Over 500,000 protesters took to the streets of Israel on Sunday night, with over 350,000 on the streets of Tel Aviv being met with heavy force from Israeli police. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum vowed to bring the country to a standstill, with planned strikes across Israel and in Ben Gurion Airport. What triggered these protests was the retrieval of the bodies of 6 captives held by Hamas in Gaza. Hamas says these 6 captives recovered by Israeli soldiers were killed by Israeli gunfire and blames the US for their deaths. But the Israeli military claims all 6 captives were brutally murdered. Hersh Goldberg, who's one of the captives, was an American citizen, and he was alive until quite recently as he had sent a message to his family. Hamas said they had facilitated the sending of that message partly for humanitarian reasons and partly so that the families of the captives could increase pressure on Netanyahu to accept a ceasefire and prisoner exchange deal. And Hamas added that they had recently lost connection with Goldberg and the guards who were holding him due to what they say was an Israeli attack. The group also added that some of these 6 captives whose dead bodies were retrieved would have been returned alive had a deal been struck, based on the 2nd of July ceasefire agreement deal, particularly Hersh Goldberg, whose name was reportedly one of the first on the list of those to be exchanged. That deal and the negotiations after it fell through due to Netanyahu insisting on maintaining an Israeli presence on the Philadelphia corridor in Gaza. Protests against Netanyahu and his far-right government and their handling of the war have been ongoing for months now, but have had little impact on Netanyahu's approach or policies towards the war. Frustration and pressure on Netanyahu continues to grow as protesters demand a ceasefire and prisoner exchange deal, along with Netanyahu's resignation. There was also criticism online of the fact that these protests don't mention or factor in the over 41,000 Palestinians killed by Israel in the last 11 months. Dr. Yara Hawari, a Palestinian academic and author, wrote on X that the hundreds of thousands marching in Tel Aviv right now, demanding a ceasefire deal and the resignation of Netanyahu, are not doing so in protest of the genocide in Gaza. They are doing so in protest of how the genocide has been carried out, with no military victory and hostages still not home. The tens of thousands of murdered Palestinian children don't even register on their radar.